welcome you to this press conference today, 26th March 2019, at the University of Professional Studies and Administration, Accra. We are all aware of the unfortunate happenings on the UEW main campus in the past few days, and the subsequent bizarre response from the Governing Council of UEW through a press conference held on the 18th of March 2019. If one reads the press statement of the Governing Council of the University of Education, UEW, signed by Professor Ian Abaka, Chairman of the said Governing Council, one gets the sense that the posture and communicative stance of the press release is not one aimed at seeking resolution to the current impasse. The tone is that of an obstreperous bully who cannot countenance the idea that their high-handedness in dealing with matters of university administration has been rightfully called into question. Indeed, he who comes to equity must come with clean hands. Sadly, that cannot be said of the management of UEW. Power, they say, tends to corrupt, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. It is for this reason that there are checks and balances of unbridled power in university administration. It is unfortunate that the action of the police led to the destruction of property after students had protested peacefully for 3 good days. The destruction of property is, however, condemnable. This current press conference by UTAG seeks to set the record straight and clearly enunciate UTAG's position on current happenings at UEW and respond to certain misrepresentations of fact and the unifocal view expressed by the chairman of the Governing Council, Professor Ian Abeka, at their press conference. This presentation will focus on 1, the case of the 3 recently dismissed senior members and 20 others. 2, the effusions and tyranny of Professor Ian Abeka and Professor Afuboni. 3, response to the press statement by the registrar, Sylvia Bolose Berima, Esquire. 4, UTAG's considered opinion on the current impasse. 5, resolutions, and 6, way forward. The UEW Governing Council, through its chair, in an attempt to justify their high-handed action, sought refuge in Statute 36, Schedule G of the UEW statutes, and a unilateral interpretation of Clause 2, subsection B of the said Schedule G, which talks about insubordination, which forms their major basis for dismissing the 3 academic senior members. The ambit of insubordination appears to be the sole prerogative and interpretation of the Vice-Chancellor and the Disciplinary Board, as spelled out in Clause 5 of the Schedule G, which unfortunately, in these instances, have been abused. We note that nowhere in the press release is reference made to Clause E of Statute 36, which deals with the rights of appeal as prescribed by the rules. Thus, UTAG calls for the decision of the disciplinary committee to be rescinded is not out of order unless university management does not wish to countenance a review of its own position in contravention of the statutory requirements. It is unfortunate that a respected body like the Governing Council will publish the details of dismissal letters in that unfortunate press conference, and we believe that it was ill-motivated, unethical, immature, and callous. We deem the overflow expression, I quote, taken through due process of the law, as established under Statute 36 and in accordance with Schedule G, unquote, as dishonest. We want to state without hesitation that in construing and complying with the aforementioned statute, due consideration should have been taken in composing committees with people who are fair-minded, objective, and had not already taken sides with management. We wish to draw attention to the content and chronology of events as spelled out in paragraph 7 to 14 of the press release of the Governing Council, which purports to set out the reason for the dismissal of the academic senior members, and opine as follows. I'll begin with the case of Dr. Frimpong Ketcheduku. The disciplinary action against Dr. Frimpong Ketcheduku supposedly, I quote, ended about 5 months before he prevailed in the appeals court case in January 2019, unquote. The question that arises is why the Governing Council delayed in communicating the decision of the disciplinary board since the process ended in August 2018, but had to wait and announce its decision to Dr. Duku on 8th of March 2019, a day after UTAG National had formally written to the UEW management to recognize Dr. Duku as UTAG president of UEW. Ladies and gentlemen, could this be a mere significant coincidence? The council chair claims that Dr. Duku chose to go to court at the expense of his lectures, a claim that is unsubstantiated and which the council chair must prove. Our colleague, a diligent and conscientious academic, attended all his lectures, with the exception of one which he rescheduled knowing that he had to be present in court the following day. We are daring the council chair to provide any evidence of complaint from the students or a query from the head of department or dean of Dr. Duku's absence from lectures to substantiate their claim. Have we reduced the business of lecturing to the point where lecturers need to seek exit before attending to other important business? If indeed such a thing happened, then one would have expected that Statute 36, Schedule G, Rule 9 would have applied, and I quote as follows. Notwithstanding the provisions of Rule 2 above, any member of staff who absent himself or herself from duty without leave or reasonable cause shall not be entitled to his or her salary for the period that she stays away from duty. The non-payment of salary shall be without prejudice to any disciplinary action which may be taken against him or her, unquote. Why then did the Governing Council renege on its responsibility in applying this rule? The council chair further asserts strangely that Dr. Duku's act of failing to appear before a disciplinary board constituted gross misconduct and argues that he did so without any justifiable reason. However, in the last sentence of paragraph 7 of their own press release, the council chair acknowledges that Dr. Duku submitted a letter from his lawyers to the committee on why he could not make an appearance. The stated reason was that he had to appear before a high court on the same day that the disciplinary board was meeting. Ladies and gentlemen, does this constitute unjustifiable grounds? Professor Ian Abeka seems to be fixated with his institutional authority as chair of the Governing Council and commits a fallacy of argumentum ad veracundium, fallacy of appeal to authority, when he claims that, I quote, by failing to appear before the disciplinary board, Dr. Duku showed gross misconduct and disrespected the authority of the Governing Council, unquote. Professor Beka seems to be pursuing a vendetta against Dr. Duku because he claims that Dr. Duku led in bringing contempt application against himself as the chairman of the council, vice chancellor, and the registrar. I quote, with the sole aim of committing them to prison, unquote. Ladies and gentlemen, who will appear unscathed when the three most powerful people who allege you have fouled are the accusers, judges, and executioners at your trial? Professor Beka commits the fallacy of argumentum ad misericordiam, fallacy of appeal to pity, when he tries to court public sympathy by claiming that Dr. Duku's court case against the acting vice chancellor to restrain him from officiating at the congregation, a case that was dismissed by the High Court, was calculated to, quote, cause so much anguish, financial loss to the university and students, unquote. Thus, he had to be seriously disciplined. Since when did the law-abiding citizens attempt to seek relief at court of competent jurisdiction become a matter of gross misconduct meriting dismissal from the workplace? Especially when in the UEW Act, Act 672, 2004, it is stated that, I quote, the university shall be a body corporate with perpetual succession, common seal, and may be sued in its own name, unquote. In any case, the claim by Professor Abeka is a palpable lie. The injunction deposed by Dr. Duku did not have anything to do with graduation ceremony. It only sought to prevent the acting Vice Chancellor from holding himself as such. Suit number E10/4/2018. Clearly, Professor Abeka misrepresented the facts deliberately with a view of winning public sympathy. I move on to the case of Dr. Emmanuel Sapon. Ladies and gentlemen, at the CERN Council meeting on the 22nd February 2018, the Council Chair, Professor Abeka, claims Dr. Sapon walked out on him and other members of the Governing Council without acknowledging that at the time of the said event, that Dr. Sapon was a member of the Governing Council. Thus, Dr. Sapon was very conscious of the rules regarding meeting procedures at Council. We aver that he did not walk out on his colleagues, but recused himself from a vote which he could not, in good conscience, be party to. Ladies and gentlemen, walking out of a meeting or recusing oneself from a discussion or voting is an acceptable procedure at meetings in the 21st century. Therefore, Dr. Sapon's legitimate action of recusing himself could not be interpreted as a disrespectful action or one tantamount to gross misconduct. Again, Professor Abeka, the Council Chair, claimed that Dr. Sapon was, I quote, unaware that his walkout on chairman and members of the UEW Governing Council was an insult and disrespectful, unquote. It's malicious, personal, and vindictive because Dr. Sapon was prevailed upon to tender a letter of apology to the Council, which he obliged respectfully, only for him to be dismissed 8 months later. The Council Chair's case against Dr. Sapon is an argumentum ad hominem, fallacy of personal attack, and it is not supported by the fact. It's marks of pomposity and pettiness on the part of someone who occupies the venerable position of chairman of the Governing Council of a public university. It is instructive to know that Dr. Sapon was representing the alumni of the UEW Council. Therefore, informing the alumni of an invitation to a disciplinary hearing was within his rights and never sought to cause any disaffection for management. It is not ironical that Dr. Sapon was forced, that Dr. Sapon was forced to issue a disclaimer on the alumni page, even though he did not put the said letter on the page, and yet same had been used against him. This is clearly a case of no matter what you do, we will get you out. What kind of regime is this? It is important to know that Dr. Sapon was representing the alumni on the council and not as a worker of the university. Ladies and gentlemen, assuming that Dr. Sapon was not an employee of the university, how would they have punished him if he were not in employment of the university? Ideally, if the council was displeased with his action, the furthest they could have gone was to appeal to the Alumni Association to replace him on council. I move on to discuss the case of Professor Ephraim Abian himself. The chairman of UEW Council recognizes the fact that Professor Abian himself was, I quote, a principal member of the university, unquote, and occupied the position of principal at the Jumapo campus. What prevents Professor Abian himself from expressing his sentiments about the conflict that ensued at UEW? Did his position as principal debar him from expressing his views on critical development on UEW campus? Management of UEW is not a court of law for it to hold Professor Abian himself in contempt for expressing an opinion on a matter supposedly pending before court. Professor Abian himself, per statute of UEW, is in attendance at council, so he has every right to speak on matters concerning the university, especially when he did not organize a media press conference. Indeed, if he had broken any law, One would have expected the court to deal with him, but not the governing council. He engaged in a legitimate academic exercise of taking the gown to town, which is protected by academic freedom. Also, on every occasion that Professor Avianso held a seminar, he issued a disclaimer to the effect that he was not speaking for university management. In fact, the accusation against Professor Avianso is a classic case of giving a dog a bad name in order to hang it. And this is unacceptable in a 21st century university in Ghana. Now I move on to talk about the effusions and tyranny of Reverend Father Professor Anthony Afuboni and Professor Ian Abekan. Ladies and gentlemen, it is important to underscore that the current Vice Chancellor, Professor Afuboni, assumed office after the current governing council dismissed Professor Mauto Awoke, following a series of allegations that were leveled against Professor Mauto Awoke. Professor Afuboni has been cited to have leaked documents to the Honorable Afenyomakin, MP for Efutu, that orchestrated the dismissal of his former boss, Professor Mauto Awoke. Therefore, Reverend Father Afuboni should be blamed personally for all the bad press UEW has seen in recent years. We wonder why this information that he was complicit in the dismissal of his boss, which has been in the public domain for several months, has not been refuted by Professor Afuboni. The question on the minds of many is, what is the Reverend Father looking for to be deeply involved in this confusion, underground machinations, and show of power? It is also interesting to know that there are allegations of financial malfeasance, i.e. 5.7 million cedis honorarium, as well as allegations of inflated and cooked up contracts against Professor Afuboni, which were carried by no mean a paper than the Daily Graphic on Wednesday, March 13, 2019. We ask, has there been any measures taken by the Governing Council of UEW to investigate Professor Afuboni and to cause a disciplinary action against him? Or is it a case that the Reverend Father is a protégé of Professor Abekan and therefore not capable of doing wrong? We do not wish to believe that Professor Abekan is being derelict in his duties, or even worse, being complicit in these allegations of financial malfeasance. Professor Afuboni is also known to have exhibited vindictive tendencies through a warped application of his discretionary and oversight powers by stripping appointment of people who were deemed to be sympathizers of Professor Mauto Awoke and giving same appointments to people he deemed loyal to himself, even when these new appointees were of lower rank. If these sordid details above constitute the unenviable record that the Governing Council is proud of, supports, and seeks to insulate the Vice Chancellor from, then it is the position of UTAG that both the Council Chair and the Vice Chancellor must honorably resign their positions with immediate effect. Ladies and gentlemen, it is also interesting to know that from paragraph 15 to 18 of their press release, Professor Abekan assumes a moral high ground and pontificates, when in actual fact, if the spotlight is shown on him, he is reduced to a moral dwarf. How can someone who compulsorily retired in 2014 from the employment of the University of Education at the rank of an associate professor be promoted a little over 4 years later in 2019 as a professor? This is his promotion letter. We will give you copies. Documents we have in our possession indicate that Professor Abekan used his position as chairman of UEW Governing Council to engineer a retroactive application of a statutory provision which did not apply to him when he was in active service to gain promotion. It is eye-opening to observe that Professor Abekan failed statute-wise to gain promotion under a previous administration. But under the administration of his protégé, Professor Afuboni, under a governing council that he, Professor Abeka, chairs, that the rules were tinkered to enable him to be promoted with retrospective effect even after about 5 years of his retirement. Incredible indeed. In fact, the document that the registrar cites in his letter of 11 July 2018, conditions of senior members of public universities of Ghana, has not been accepted nor implemented by the various university councils of the public universities of Ghana and by extension government. It is non-existent. So why this selective application? Was it because Professor Abeka stood to benefit from this whimsical retroactive application of the rules? We aver that indeed he did benefit also in a pecuniary fashion, because his promotion was backdated to 19 December 2013. Thus, he stood to gain from back pay, calculated from December 2013. If this decision did not border on conflict of interest, gross corruption, wanton dissipation of public funds, and bending rules to suit oneself because one is in power, then we do not know what conflict of interest is. We know that Professor Abeka, as a former Pro-Vice Chancellor of UEW, retired in 2014 and left the university under the previous administration with so much bitterness. Therefore, he should have honorably declined acceptance to the position of council chairman because of the existence of a potential conflict of interest, which has clearly been demonstrated or actualized. His biases, dislike, and retributive vengeance have all contributed immensely to the crisis we find in UEW today. If not for these negative qualities, Professor Abeka was in a good position to help the Vice-Chancellor chart a peaceful reconciliatory path as charted by the President, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, at his investiture. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, this is the man, Professor Abeka, who wishes us all to believe that he's a moral giant, a stern disciplinarian, and a stickler to the rules. We are by this release calling on the President of the Republic to initiate a full-scale investigation into the conduct of Professor Emmanuel Abeka on the UEW Council and to bring him to book if found complicit. We equally call on Shraj to investigate the conflict of interest situation Professor Abeka finds himself in. Ladies and gentlemen, I move on to talk about the registrar, Surveyor Paul Osei Berima. The response to his press statement. Aspire. Ladies and gentlemen, we wish to make a few comments on the press statement by the Registrar of UEW on the 25th March 2019, trying to justify why the chairman of the governing council of UEW decided to promote himself upon assumption of office as council chair after 5 good years of retirement. The Campbell statement signed by the registrar, whom we are told is a lawyer and should have known better, makes the illegal self-promotion with retrospective payment to the governing council chair even murkier. We wish to state that the unified conditions of service document, which was the basis for amending the rules, has not been adopted by Vice Chancellors Ghana, nor any recognized body, and it is therefore not in use in any public university in Ghana. This is a clear indication that UEW management and the council, chaired by Professor Ian Abeka, are ignorant of existing statutory regulation governing public universities in Ghana. Even if the council decision on 16th August and 28 December 2017 is anything to go by, why was it applied to Professor Abeka's application when it had clearly elapsed and did not even have the required number of papers for promotion at the time, in 2013. The inclusion of the other applicants was a mere cover for Professor Abeka's application. He recusing himself from the meeting was irrelevant because the basis for consideration of his application by the governing council was extraordinarily fraudulent in the first place. Ladies and gentlemen, it is gratifying to note that the registrar acknowledged that the council chair could recuse himself from the illegal promotion decision, but finds it disrespectful for Dr. Sapon to recuse himself from voting. From the promotion letter issued to Professor Abeka, it is clear that Professor Abeka did not reapply as indicated by the said press statement, because his promotion was backdated to the date of his first field application, which was in December 2013. Assuming without admitting that the council decision to amend the rules of promoting was legal, one would have expected that Professor Abeka would have declined to be the first beneficiary of a rule he superintended over if he had any little integrity. I move on to talk about UTAG's considered opinion on the current impasse. Ladies and gentlemen, it is clear that the UEW management and council led by Professor Afuboni and Professor Abeka, respectively, are clearly on a path to deepen a new culture of fear and silence on UEW campus. This culture is antithetical to the very spirit of academia. UTAG strongly admonishes any group or groups interested in the proper corporate culture of a 21st century university to visit UEW, and without doubt, one will witness the collapse of deliberation, consensus building, and freedom of expression on the campus. Why should lecturers be loyal to the Vice Chancellor, Reverend Professor Afuboni, failure of which should lead to their victimization? The university is not a place to build a cult or a sect where followership is a necessity. Ladies and gentlemen, UTAG notes with concern this growing sectarian non-academic culture and the rise of a dragon at UEW. If we do not wake up to cure this canker, the effects of the crisis of UEW will be perpetuated by generations to come. The situation is so bad that there is now a culture of silence on UEW campuses. If this is not true, is the definite silence of the lectures on happenings on UEW not surprising? The few who are bold to talk are the ones being dismissed under the guise of a so-called due process. Professor Abeka claims that UTAG had exaggerated the number of persons who had been dismissed, suspended, or demoted under the current governing council, and that it was meant to put the council in a negative light. Ladies and gentlemen, one would have thought that the governing council would have set the record straight by providing the exact numbers. Having failed to do so out of shame, UTAG provides the following details of staff who have been affected by the treacherous decisions of the Vice Chancellor and the Chairman of the Governing Council in just a little over 1 year. So I provide a list. There's main staff, senior members teaching. Some of them are here. Number one, Professor Mauto Aboke. 2, Professor Avia Enson. 3, Dr. Samuel Ofoyu Bequin. 4, Dr. Samuel Atintono. 5, Dr. Frepon Kecheduku. 6, Dr. Emmanuel Sapon. 7, Dr. Philip Omoreji Osamende. 8, Dr. Wisdom Jose. 9, Ms. Shai Agbevivi. 10, Mr. Kennedy Udia Mango. 11, Mr. Lawrence Kwashi. The main staff, senior members, non-teaching. Dr. Theophilus S. Akoli. That's number 12. 13, Mr. Frank Usubuatin. 14, Mr. Engineer or Engineer Daniel Tete. 15, Mary Zime or Jime. 16, Sena Dake. Dismissed staff, senior staff, Dennis Marfo, 17. Ebenezer Bonzi, 18. David Ajahu, 19. Suspended and demoted, Mr. Charles Edem Bedra, senior member, 20. Mr. Francis Amoni, senior staff, 21. Mr. Epiphany Agbeshi, senior member, 22. Elder Tete, senior staff, 23. Please note that this list excludes those who have been transferred out of vindictiveness. Although transfers are normal in any administrative setup. We are very sure that the chairman of the Governing Council, Professor Abeka, and the Vice Chancellor cannot deny that all these people expressing dissenting that all these people express dissenting views on the renewable matter. Meanwhile, the culture of dissent, as I've already indicated, is not opposed to the very spirit of academia. This is to prove that we have never exaggerated the figures. Our intelligence indicates that more people have been lined up to the SAC, including students. Ladies and gentlemen, is it the case that UTAG cannot express an opinion on the happenings on the UEW campus as espoused by Professor Abeka and his council? Traditionally, a university is made up of senior and junior members, supported by other staff, and the majority of the senior members are academic senior members who belong to UTAG. Also, the core business of the university is teaching, research, and extension services, which are carried out by UTAG members. Thus, without any equivocation, we can state that UTAG is the greatest actor when it comes to university education and management. Hence, any attempt made by UTAG to salvage the bad situation is legitimate and cannot be misconstrued as a destructive tendency. In fact, UTAG has a greater claim to the success of UEW than any council chair and vice chancellor, since they hold positions only for a short while, whereas for UTAG, it is a lifetime enterprise. UTAG therefore resolve following. We have reflected without bias on the crisis and resolve the following. 1. We call for the immediate reinstatement of all affected staff and not only UTAG members. This is the second time. 2. The immediate resignation of the Vice Chancellor, Professor Afugoni, for his vindictive attitude and failure to reconcile factions in the crisis he created and benefited from. 3. Swift investigation be conducted by SRAJ into the conflict of interest cited against Professor E.N. Abeka. 4. We call on the National Council for Tertiary Education, Ministry of Education, IOCO, and the Office of the Special Prosecutor to immediately launch a probe to investigate the several allegations leveled against Professor Afugoni. 5. A probe into alleged promotions given to people who did not meet the requirements spelled out in the statute of UEW. 6. The immediate resignation of Professor E.N. Abeka as chairman of the Governing Council of UEW, since he has failed to provide guidance and proper counsel to the entire Governing Council and the management of UEW. 7. We are again calling on the College Bishops Conference to call Reverend Father Professor Afugoni to order, since he has become very treacherous and vindictive. 8. As a matter of urgency, a neutral person should be brought in to lead the management of UEW and the council. The way forward. The National Executive Committee of UTAG will monitor the situation for a while. We will not specify the time, with the view of finding a lasting solution and an end to the victimization of lecturers and other staff on University of Education Winneba campus. If we see no end in sight, UTAG will advise itself.